Hour 2 Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line of the final score. Bryan Hayes, Andi Petrillo, Jonas Siegel in here up on TSN 1050, TSN 4, your home smart speaker, the TSN app.
Can I say something?
Yes.
So I've never liked it when someone's like, I was going to do this or I was going to bring this and forgot or got away from me, but I'm going to be that person.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what's on my kitchen counter?
What's that?
Right now that I was going to bring
Cookies? Cupcakes?
Yeah, chocolate brownies.
Wow.
I was going to bring them in for everybody today because I got one of those big containers from Costco. There's no way we're going through it. My husband hasn't been feeling well. I've been sleeping in the spare bedroom since Friday, so I'm staying away from him. He's the chocolate monster in the house. So I'm like, I'm going to take it to work and I'm going to share it with everybody. And I left it on the kitchen counter.
Move. Yeah, the Costco purchase, like, it's so...
There's a gajillion
massive. Yeah, like it's just so unreasonable to finish that.
Yeah.
Like it's just never going to happen.
I could,
yes.
but I'd also like to fit in these jeans for 2024.
Like it's like, yeah, I'll pick that up for $6.99, 48 pieces. You know, like it's like that's where like I end up going to Costco or my wife will go to Costco and she'll buy me something and I won't finish it. Like she'll buy me like a salad or whatever it is. And I'll have like 5 meals and then throw it out. And she'll be like, well, you threw it out. I'm like, do you realize I was like paying 50 cents a meal with that? Like it still makes sense.
I know.
To get it, even if you're never going to finish it. But if you eat it like 5 or 6 times, like economically it adds up. As opposed to going somewhere else. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but by the 5th time, you're just like, oh, man,
no,
I don't want this anymore.
Understand.
Yeah.
Which that can be tough.
You got to buy the non-perishable because when you buy like there's only 2 of us in my household. We just can't go through the stuff fast. Like
it's
toilet paper, like you name it. We will buy that, chips, whatever, canned stuff. But yeah, and then so we got these brownies and now I'm just like, what am I going to do?
Needed those today.
I'm so sorry.
Would you have had one, Jonas?
Of course.
Like, I've known you a long time.
I have a weakness for...
No one has a cleaner diet than Jonas.
That's what you see. That's not the reality.
I'm always impressed with your commitment. Like, I see you at games. I see you here in studio.
Jonas, you were the worst to steal snacks from up in the press box. I'd be hungry. You and Masters.
Right.
Masters would be like, I have an apple. I'm like, get your apple out of my face. Yeah. Jonas is like, I have carrot sticks.
I know.
I'm like, get your carrot sticks out of my face.
They're rabbits.
Yeah, but when I go home, trouble.
It's go time. You eat celery. you get crazy.
Celery with a little peanut butter.
With a little dip.
Yeah.
Exactly. Just a few calories just to get a little bit crazy. I like it. All right. Confirm or deny later in the hour. We'll head down to Scotiabank Arena in about an hour. I think Joe Bowen and Jimmy Ralph are both going to join us.
Both?
Whoa.
I believe so. Is that what we're doing, Doogie? That's what I read.
We have
that's
enough
gonna be a gong
space
show.
for the 2 of them.
I know. They get the 2 of them going. We'll just throw it to them, basically. They can do their own thing. And Mike Johnson coming up here in a few moments where the Leafs are playing the Rangers tonight, and Austin Matthews will return. He only missed 1 game. But I thought prior to his illness on Saturday, he was playing the best hockey he's played in a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to see if he just gets right back on the horse. Like the last time we would have seen him was in New York, I guess, against the Rangers. Or Columbus. He was in that Columbus game on Thursday.
Depends on what he had. I mean, there's a stomach thing going around. Well, it doesn't matter what you have. Whether it's a stomach thing where it don't feel good when you start going fast, or whether it's something that was in your chest and now you got to
breathe. Well, you
know.
look at Jalen Hurts last night. Like, it's amazing how Michael Jordan in the flu game screwed everyone else over. And now we know it was fraudulent. It wasn't even the flu. It was food poisoning or whatever. Based on the documentary. Remember, he came out and said it was like some pizza joint or whatever. But he did that. It was the flu game. And now you expect everyone. If you're going to play through an illness, you better do what Michael Jordan did in the NBA Finals.
Not realistic.
A little bit unreasonable. Because I thought Hurts was okay last night. I didn't think he was great.
No, that pick wasn't really on him.
No, but not necessary for him to throw that.
No.
Right? Like, I don't believe that was on 3rd down. I don't think it was the equivalent of a punt. I think it was 2nd down.
2nd and 10?
Yeah. And even the one on the sideline. But, yeah, this is the one I'm talking about. That's on first. Oh, no, that's at the end of the game.
Oh, that's
that closed
the
game.
One. I was talking the other one.
Yeah, that's the second one where they had to get down the field because they had no time left.
There's a pick in the end zone. Yeah, like it just was forced, it felt like.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was on 2nd down. That one was a great play by Love, like a great play. Yeah. But it wasn't necessary for him to shoot for the light.
But you know what Jordan did in that game? We should get to Mike. Mm-hmm. Remember the shot of him like falling on Pippen? That's a good shot.
It is.
That's
He
what you
sold
should do,
it.
right?
He sold it. If you're sick or it's publicly known
Just
that
make
you're
sure
sick
people know.
and
People
you play
know.
great, you really have to sell it.
Yeah.
That's a veteran move.
Mm-hmm.
Here's Mike Johnson, our TSN Hockey analyst, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Johnny, you were under the weather recently. Did you make sure to post a picture of you like hanging up against a wall or leaning up against Gord Miller or something like that?
I thought this whole preamble was a setup for me trying to do the Ottawa game last week when I couldn't talk. And it was an absolute disaster. No, I didn't post any pictures. It was more embarrassing than anything else. But it's funny, though. I mean, how this reminds me, like, we've had Matthew Nyes miss a game, Austin Matthews missed a game, TJ Brody's missed a game. How every year, seemingly every team in the NHL goes through like a 3-week stretch where people get sick. Like once a bug gets into a room,
Oh, yeah.
it's impossible. The planes, the buses, the benches, the practices, the locker room, like it's impossible to keep it out. So the Leafs are kind of going through it, hopefully coming out the tail end of it. I obviously went through it just in time before the World Juniors as well, but a lot of people are sick, but it's amazing around dressing rooms how widespread. One guy gets sick, that's it, forget it, pack it up, because everyone's going to get sick at some point in the next 3 weeks.
MJ, I don't know if you were, I can't remember now if you were with Montreal, like 2006.
I was on that team.
Didn't they have to clear out the room and bleach it because like the Habs were just not getting better?
I was on the team.
Yeah.
They brought in the hazmat unit.
Yeah, I remember this.
Wow.
They literally, it's the only time in my entire career where I missed games for being sick. I missed 2 games that year. I played 80 games, 2 of them for being sick during that stretch. And they canceled practice for about a week. And they brought in, like, literally,
It was bad.
like from the movie Outbreak, with the vacuum-sealed gear to blow out the dressing room and try to get rid of whatever was bothering guys. Guys were leaving the benches mid-game to do whatever they had to do. It was, it was ugly. It was really ugly that year.
Well, because
memory.
we weren't allowed in the room. I remember I was traveling with the Toronto Maple Leafs that year, and you're right, like it hits every room. But I remember we actually were not allowed in the room because there was like some sort of tarp hanging up, and they were spraying some special stuff. So all the stuff had to be done like in another room, kind of around the corner. It was crazy. I was
Crime
like, what is happening right
Crime
now?
scene.
It was.
Yeah, that
You
was
did
bad.
not want to go in the washroom between periods.
Oh,
it was
Lord.
not good.
Yeah.
Not
Ew.
good.
Well, I said just before having you on, Johnny, that like Michael Jordan screwed every athlete who's under the weather because of the flu game, right? Everyone looks back on that and it's like, well, look what MJ did in the NBA Finals. So why can't you just show up and play and fight through it? And it's just not realistic at all.
No, at all. And like nobody wants to miss time. I certainly didn't. First of all, he himself says that was a food poisoning game, not a flu game, right? So once it gets through your system, apparently you're just kind of weak, but it's not like it stays with you. But it's a bad precedent because now, having said that, would Austin Matthews have played last game if he was in the Stanley Cup final? I'm guessing yes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he would have been good, but I'm guessing he would have played. And so, there is that. If Michael Jordan had that game in February in Charlotte, I'm not sure he would have gritted through it. Maybe he would have, but maybe not.
Valid point.
But that is a tough precedent. But MJ set a tough precedent for everyone to follow when it comes to sports. It's been 30 years of the best players in all sports across the world trying to live up to the standard that Michael Jordan set, and people still haven't really done it.
Mike, we've got the Leafs and Rangers tonight. I'm wondering, who do you think the best team in the East is right now if you had to pick one?
I would probably, it seems strange not to say Boston.
Yeah.
Because they've done so well. They are consistent. I know people aren't terrified of their roster, but terrified of the way they play. Like the Rangers, I don't believe are. A lot of people like to say the Rangers because they're sexy picks. The Rangers, I don't love their 5-on-5 game. They've been carried a lot this year by their special teams, which have been incredible. But yeah, I don't know if it's the Rangers. Maybe Florida would be like Florida at their best to me. Feels like the hardest, scariest team to play against in a playoff series. When they're at their best, they are a nightmare. So I would probably say Boston or Florida if you had to pick one of the two. And isn't that convenient? They're the two teams that are involved in the chase with the Toronto Maple Leafs that they'll probably have to play in rounds 1 and 2 of the playoffs.
Yeah, well, that's it, right? You look what the Rangers are going to likely have to deal with is I think they're going to win the Metro. There's still a lot of runway. Anything's possible. And you mentioned 5-on-5 compared to special team stats. What I would say is I'm expecting Shesterkin at some point to snap out of it too, where he has not statistically been great. He's more than capable of doing that. If and when that happens, that might speak to some of the numbers and how they look 5-on-5 and comforting things in terms of how you might feel about them. But I look at the Metro, like that as of now looks like an easier route because of what's happened with Carolina, because of what's happened with Jersey, where in the Atlantic, getting that top seed, which is not out of reach for the Maple Leafs. Like they're 5 back at Boston with a game in hand, 54 games left to play. Like that should be the goal in the room is you can track down Boston, you get that top seed. All of a sudden you're playing, maybe you play Philly the first round. Maybe you play the Islanders in the first round as opposed to possibly going to Florida, going to Boston, something along those lines.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I don't have the Leafs not won a division since the Canadian division, whatever that was called.
Yeah, that pandemic thing.
Yeah, I think having that for the reasons you just laid out is really important. Really important. That's not to say that the Islanders are easy or the Tampa or whoever is going to get fourth, but it's going to be easier than the other two. And careful what you wish for, but I wish for the easiest path. I'm not going to lie to you. I want the easier path. So. Yeah, and they're playing better as of late. There's no doubt about that. Their offensive game has really sort of come around, their ability to pass the puck up the ice and make good plays and score off the rush. They're looking better. Still room to grow defensively in their own end, but they're looking better as Toronto. So, yeah, I think it's not too early for a team whose success or failure of the season will be solely defined by what they do in the playoffs, that the regular season should be focused on setting themselves up as good as possible for the playoffs, and that means trying to go get first place. Like, don't just sort of concede it's okay, we'll get 104 points and finish third. No. Like, look at the standings. See Boston. Recognize that you got to go catch them. They're not going to back into you. You got to go catch them. And tons of time to do it, but that has to be the objective.
Yeah, and that's, I think, another reason why Martin Jones would play tonight, because you don't have time to just hope Ilya Samsonov can work it out. You're going to need him at some point. But for me, this is the right play. Jones is going to go tonight. Everything led to this, considering he's coming off a shutout. He beat the Rangers a week ago. Samsonov's been a mess. Like, I have no issue with that. I completely I advocate for it. I think he should be the guy going. What do you make of it, Johnny?
I'm with you. It makes sense for all the reasons you just said. But what it does also tell you is a little snapshot into where the coaches' heads are at when it comes to Samsonov. Because they recognize, they kind of want him back up and running and part of the group and all the rest, and they're going to go a different direction to the third goalie against one of the best teams in the East, and a game where you've had a couple days off. Everything would be set up to play Samsonov if you believe that he would give you a chance to win the game. They clearly believe Martin Jones gives them a much better chance to win the game, because even if it was close, it's a toss-up, they're about the same. They'd go to Samsonov because they're more invested long-term probably in Samsonov figuring it out. The fact that they're going to Jones.
There goes his phone.
Oh, I thought it was.
I thought he was building.
Incredible build-up, too. Like, the first, half second, I'm like, what a landing this is going to be. Like, Johnny's in the entertainment business, and he's crushing it right now. And then it just turns out that, his phone drops, so... We'll get him back in a moment.
Yeah, because I want to follow up on that, because it is interesting, because how many times do clubs and coaches in particular, and whether you get the pressure from your GM, you typically go with the guy who is signed longer or has more money that you're paying him. But in this particular case, it's like we got to go with the hot hand. And I know it's kind of hard to look into your crystal ball, although I guess he is called Mystic Mike. When he comes back on, I'd like to ask him this: what happens when Wall comes back? What if Martin Jones goes on? No, but what if Martin Jones goes on a run, is all I'm saying. What if he is what we just had that conversation with O-Dog and catching lightning in a bottle, and suddenly
then
it's
trade him. You trade Samsonov, or you...
Yeah, if you can get a taker for Samsonov. That's the difference.
Pay a sweetener to potentially...
That is not ideal.
No, it is not.
That's where it gets complicated for a couple of different reasons. Waivers comes into play. The salary cap comes into play. Possible injury comes into play. Also, Joseph Wall, what's he going to be like when he returns?
He's also played 30 NHL games. It's not like he has a long...
He's the savior.
That's right.
Jonas.
No, but you make a good point though, Jonas. They're not really committed to anybody yet.
Nobody.
Long term.
No.
Like Jones and Samsonov are on one-year deals, and Wall is under team control, but it is far from being determined who is going to be the man next year, let alone 3 or 5 years down the road. Johnny, you got us back, and you left us hanging there. You're about to drop a bombshell on Samsonov and the Leafs, and
where the coaches' heads were at.
Yeah,
what's
I was
happening?
fired up.
Yeah, it was
I was
good.
fired up, and I found the same dead spot I find every time, Hayes, when I'm driving to a game.
Yep,
I don't know what it is. I'm down by the Esplanade and Young, and it just drops.
it's all good.
But I it just tells you that Samsonov's not playing. The coaches don't trust him.
Mm-hmm.
It's all set up for Samsonov to play. If they felt it was 50-50, they go to Samsonov. They clearly don't, which says a lot about Samsonov. Because Martin Jones, while he's been great in Toronto, he's not been a great goalie the last few years. Like, he's had his own struggles to be kind of a top-flight guy post-San Jose. So, yeah, that's illuminating as to where the Leafs think Samsonov and his game are.
Well, Mike, you mentioned the coaches. What is it like to play in front of a goaltender who is clearly fighting it? Like, if you've been around, you've been around Samsonov, he's in a funk. Like, you don't even need to watch much. What is it like to play behind or play in front of someone who's going through something like that?
Well, it's not ideal. It's you want to think that you're going to get the saves you need, right? You want to believe that he's going to do the job he's supposed to do, and then when he doesn't, it's deflating, and there's sort of that built-in like, well, how are we going to win with this kind of goaltending? Even though what the goalie does and what you do are not necessarily related, but it's sort of how you feel about yourself. So yeah, it's easy to fall out of belief that you can win when you have a goalie who's leaky. And right now, Samsonov is leaky. And there's also the idea that, if you're not playing well early or if your legs aren't quite there, when you have a guy you believe in, you're like, that's okay. We're fine. Like, we're not great, but we're fine. We'll figure it out. We'll be okay. And then when you don't have that guy, you're like, we're not going to be okay because we're not playing well, and we're going to be losing 3-0 before you know it. And I think that's sort of where the Leafs might be at mentally when it comes to playing in front of Samsonov.
So Detroit is 1-5-1 since Patrick Kane arrived. What do you think is running through his head as he's walking through that dressing room?
Even he's a Hall of Fame great player, obviously. Like, part of your mentality when you walk into a winning team is don't screw it up. We even joke about it. When good players come back, don't screw it up. Don't mess up the good thing. And it's obviously not his fault, but it's, timing. There were injuries. There was the suspension to Perron. It all kind of happened around the same time where a lot was going on for Detroit. Larkin left for a couple games. So, I think we had this conversation, though, Hazy. Like, the idea that you were just going to concede Detroit a playoff spot.
No way. No chance.
You weren't ready to do that. I wasn't ready to do that. Like, yeah, they've been good. It's been a good story. They've shown strides. But I'm not locking them in for a home ice advantage or even to make the playoffs. It's going to be a battle all the way. And I think it's not news to Patrick Kane, but when he goes in there, like, well, hang on, I thought this team was rolling along to 110 points. What do you mean we're in 8th spot? What do you mean we're 2 points ahead of Montreal?
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? So, yeah, I think, if anything, it's opened his eyes to what the reality is going to be for the Red Wings and for him the rest of the year.
Montreal, I've been impressed with them, man. Like, they just keep plugging along. Marty St. Louis, I'll be honest, you can go back and find the tapes. When they hired him, I thought it was somewhat comical, like Jeff Gorton.
Gimmicky.
It was gimmicky. It's like, yeah, you guys were buddies in New York, and Gorton comes up, and Marty, and all you heard was he coached like a bantam team at one point. I'm like, this is the National Hockey League. What are you doing here? And what he has done is take over a team that was never going to win anything. They have not won anything. They're not going to make the playoffs. But they have not embarrassed themselves at all. Like, they continue to deal with injuries. A lot of their veterans are in and out of the lineup. A lot of their veterans are not playing that well, or at least statistically putting up big numbers. Yet they're getting decent goaltending. I think that young defense they worked in last year, Johnny, is paying off now. I got to give them credit. Like, I think in terms of them understanding who they are, and what they're building towards, they're doing it with dignity right now in Montreal.
Yeah, give them props. They're hanging around. They're around 500. You're right. Goaltending has been the one stabilizing. And even that, I'm like, why are you carrying 3 goalies? Like, why are you going to waste time with Caden Primo on the roster when he needs to play games? It doesn't make sense. And yet, all 3 of them have given them moments that have been pretty good. Pretty good. So, give them full credit, because I don't think a lot of people thought that they would be this year. I mean, there was no chance in the world I thought they would make the playoffs this year at all. Like, that was never really part of the discussion. And there they are, hanging around. It doesn't matter. They're not going to make the playoffs.
No.
But, as far as just enjoyment and development and guys sort of taking strides, yeah, playing on a team that gets 85 points is way better for people than playing on a team that gets 55. Like, just their long-term growth. And they're doing it, you're right, with goaltending and a good young decor. The offense still's got a ways to go. But Marty, Stefan Robidas Island, shout out him. He's the defensive coach
right
in Montreal, right? Like, he's doing a nice job with that group of good young defenders that they have in Montreal.
Well, this is kind of on the other side of this. What do you make of the Sens bringing in Jacques Martin? Like, it seems odd to me that this would be the choice. I get it's like a one-year kind of thing, but why him? Like, does it make sense to you?
Well, I think so much of this was about changing the way the organization was perceived based on the way it was run under Eugene Melnyk. Mm-hmm. And under Melnyk, it was chaos, it was strange decisions, it was not enough assets, and it was tumultuous. And I think the whole point of this first year was supposed to be solid, stable, normal. And it hasn't been that, not with Pinto, not with Dorian getting fired for the botched trade, no trade list. It hasn't been that. And so what Jacques Martin does, it allows him to change the coach, which I think we can say, perhaps that was time, regardless of how good of a guy DJ is. But it offers stability as opposed to chasing Craig Berube or whoever it might be that he might want next. It's a familiar name that people will say, you know what, we know that guy. He was here when we were good. Mm-hmm. We trust what he will do. And allows them to punt the coaching decision down the road while also maintaining that goal of being more stable and just more under control and less chaotic. So in that sense, I get it. And the other part about it is Jacques Martin's team, if nothing else, they were organized. And the one thing this Sens team looks like they need at times is to get more organized. And so, in that sense, I suppose it makes a little bit, you can see where they're coming from. The bigger surprise to me maybe is I don't know if Alfie, being an assistant coach in the NHL is not fun and it is not glamorous. Sure, you're on the bench. Those 3 hours are fun. The other 21, you're grinding for 16 of them. And Alfie, I'm not saying he doesn't want to. I'm just saying, I don't know if he knows he wants to because popping behind the bench in Sweden, jumping on the ice occasionally and working on skills is different than, you're going to grind on a videotape for 6 hours on a pre-scout for, Carolina's penalty kill. That is very different. I'll be curious to see how he does and how much he enjoys being an assistant coach.
Well, we find out starting tonight down in Arizona, the building that Mike Johnson built himself.
Is that the one at ASU?
Yes,
America
exactly.
West or Glendale? Which one was it that I built? They're all going bankrupt.
I guess they got a new one coming, right? Shovels in the ground any day now. It's just a matter of time. Everything's going to work out beautifully. All right, Johnny, enjoy the call tonight, buddy. We'll do it again soon.
All right, guys. Thanks.
Mike Johnson, our TSN Hockey analyst, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Build your next dream Toyota at Maple Toyota and check out Maple Toyota's pre-owned inventory. Arriving daily, it's time to Toyota. Visit mapletoyota.com. Yeah, Jacques Martin, he's got no connection to the new owner, no connection to Steve Stais, and it just feels like it's a way to push everything into the summer, like Johnny said, but at the same time save some face as if you're not completely punting on the season. You're not just completely giving up.
It's also very nostalgic. You're bringing back
the PR move almost.
It is a PR move. I do agree. He was a good coach. I can't see him losing that. So there's this belief he'll organize.
71.
Mm-hmm. What does that mean?
We've seen the greatest coach in the history of the NFL look less like the greatest coach in the history of the NFL. He's 71, isn't he?
Belichick, yeah. Greg Popovich.
It's not an easy job. It's just.
No, it's demanding. But I thought maybe you were talking about he's going on the bench with a Kane or something. The guy he's fine from that sense. But I think he's going to. Like MJ said, there's going to be maybe some sort of, I don't know if cracking the whip just sounds a little too harsh, but getting them organized and just trying to put some things in place that maybe a veteran, a guy who's been there, done that before, knows the franchise, whether he knows obviously there's no connection with the new or anything, but he just knows everything from the franchise to the fan base to the understanding of what that badge means.
Yeah.
There is something there, something to be said about someone who can come in and just kind of line things up. But then, who's next? Now, but here's the thing. If you're Jacques Martin, I still think it's a risk because what if this does get worse? Or what if it's do you think it taints his reputation? People don't care.
I don't think so. I think the explanation, that is possible, right? I tend to believe it'll go the opposite way. I would guess they'll get a new coach bump. He will speak with the core players, the leaders, and say, this is what I'm implementing. You need to go and spread the word for me. Because you would think these players, they should be starving for stability and moreover for winning. Like the players should be like, we will do whatever you tell us to do if we believe it's going to help us win. But there always is the possibility it goes the other way, that it turns into like a Horacek situation where like they're not buying in. Martin's lost his touch.
It's a different
they keep
type
losing.
of player than he used to deal with, right? The players are way younger.
Well, they're way younger. They're making more money. They all have long-term deals.
Right?
Right? It is a very different era. Absolutely. Yeah, he's been around the game.
We know Jacques Martin, and we were also probably in our 20s when he was around.
Right.
Some of these kids weren't even born.
That's right.
So we look at him in some sort of starstruck or, like I said, nostalgic or just some sort of reverence. Do they?
I can't imagine Tim Stützle is aware of the history of Jacques Martin, right? Or Jake Sanderson, et cetera. I don't think they would be. But it's not that they need to know his history and what he did in the 90s and 2000s. They just have to believe that he can push the right buttons, and they have to respect that whatever he tells them to do, they're going to do it.
Can you do that when the players basically know you're not?
I think it's very difficult to do. I think it's very difficult to do.
It's
like you mentioned Horacek, that's basically what happened, right?
Yeah.
They knew he was just here.
Now, that was a mess of a team.
That was a
mess of a team.
But so is this.
That's the thing.
Idea.
Ottawa has not proven they're that far removed from it, yet they have players that they've invested in, where that Leaf team knew they were all done.
Yeah.
Like the players, a lot of them knew change is coming. Like maybe this Babcock thing is going to happen. Shanahan's here. Things are going to be different. Where Ottawa is I don't believe, going to do anything nearly as drastic in terms of changing the actual roster itself. But the other end of that spectrum, I referenced yesterday, was like Rick Bowness when he took over in Dallas.
Yeah.
Remember? And it was like lifelong assistant, good guy, but does he have it? And he, I believe, got them all the way to a cup final.
Yeah.
So I'm not anticipating
that
happens.
How old was he? Because Jonas at 71, he's already putting Jacques in a senior.
an
I'm not saying that.
An
I'm just saying it's just harder to connect with younger players when you're 71.
Yeah.
Like, look at all these coaches who are having this bump. They're not like, I mean, they're youngish. I mean, even Sheldon Keefe. Sheldon Keefe, 40-ish?
Yeah, he'd be 42.
Right?
There's something to be said. I mean, don't get me wrong. It is a different language. Sometimes even the young kids coming up in this industry now, I'm like, I don't know what to say to you. We don't even really speak the same language anymore. I don't know what
go
to
talk
say.
to Doogie. Doogie's like 21 years old.
You're a baby.
Doogie,
I don't know what to say.
Doogie doesn't. There's a lot of things Doogie just has no idea.
I made a Baywatch reference once, and I had all of them stare at me like I had 5 heads.
Yeah, Baywatch is, because that was like 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Baywatch was big in the early 90s.
You still got to know who, like, Pam Anderson and
Hasselhoff.
Hasselhoff
Yeah, but
is.
that
Come
would be
on.
like,
The Hoff is some of
The
my
Hoff.
favorite material. I love goofing on the Hoff.
but that would be like people when we're coming up being like, you don't know about Happy Days, or you don't know about like.
But we
That's
sound
true.
like our parents now.
That's-
It is. I am
I've noticed
agreeing.
that. I have picked up on that. Like there are weird moments where you take a step back and you're like, man, I'm that old guy, like telling Doogie about stuff that he couldn't care less about. Like, why would he care if he doesn't understand a Seinfeld reference? Like, it means nothing to him, nor should it.
No, when
I get angry with myself. But
when I interviewed Christine St. Clair for the last game that she played, her favorite artist and her favorite song is "The Power of Love" by Celine Dion. So she told me that when she brought that up to some of the young girls in the room,
no idea.
they had the audacity to say, "Who's Celine Dion?"
That's ignorance.
Come on,
I'm sorry,
exactly,
that's
right?
ignorance. That's uncalled
The
for.
youths
That's
these
ignorant.
days, they don't know.
Yeah. I'm not saying they need to know her whole catalog, but you have to know who Celine Dion is. If you're Canadian,
Why would you come across her?
Celine Dion,
If
She has
you're-
residency in Vegas. Or
come on,
did.
Jonas.
Why would you care?
She's in
about
bad
That's
health
like
right now.
if you were, she is in bad health. I
not
read about
good,
that
man.
this
Yeah.
morning. Paul Anka. Do you know who Paul Anka
I
is?
do, but that's
See,
a great example.
But it's perfect example. You would
Yeah.
know Paul Anka
I don't know why I know Paul Anka.
because he's a great Canadian.
I couldn't name one of his songs.
It doesn't matter. I'm not saying you have to. I'm not saying players or young people, here I am preaching, that you have to recite Celine Dion songs. You got to know who she is.
Remember when Anthony Edwards didn't know who Alex Rodriguez was? When he
Yes.
bought the Timberwolves?
That was wild.
He's like, who?
I'll tell you, he's in some trouble right now. Anthony Edwards, man. He's got some stuff going on in his life that he might need to figure out, and soon and quickly. Yeah, you have to know Celine Dion. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You have to.
But right? it is true. It is about evolving. It is about learning to talk to another generation. So I mean, I kid with you. I mean, obviously at 71, you're still kind of spry in many ways, but you're right. There is a different type of
just like
language.
When you go see, like, have you seen the Stones?
Have I seen them live?
Yeah.
Yes, multiple times.
When you see them like now, it's like
it's tough.
It's tough.
Yeah. I saw them live like 20 years ago and it was tough.
Yeah, right.
I've said this before. I don't think Keith Richards has had his guitar plugged in since like the 70s.
He's just standing there.
He's just doing his thing. I'm like, that guitar is not plugged in.
Dude, I was supposed to see Aerosmith back in September. They canceled. They rescheduled for February because Steven Tyler blew out his vocal cords. I'm like, well, of course you blew out your vocal cords.
That, his back, his neck. He's got a bad knee.
But I still love him. I don't
The gout. He's got everything. All right. Confirm or deny coming up. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.
I can neither confirm or deny that this is in fact a segment.
Austin trades Andrew Raycroft to Toronto in exchange for the rights to Tuukka Rask.
It's been my honor and a privilege to serve as the general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs Hockey Club.
It's time for Confirm or Deny.
Do you regret giving all those gentlemen the no trades or no movement clauses?
Well, I can neither confirm or deny that.
I can't confirm or deny.
All right, confirm or deny, brought to you by Don Valley North Lexus. Get lease rates as low as 3.3% for 28 months on select 2024 RX and NX models with security deposits applied. Visit DonValleyNorthLexus.com for all of the details. All right, Andy, you've played this before. Jonas, you've played it before.
I have.
Very famous, very creative, very unique. Confirm or deny. Statements are made. We go around the table. We confirm them or we deny them. Very simple stuff.
I can neither confirm or deny that.
Thank you, Fergie.
Thank you.
Confirm or deny, Martin Jones will have more starts for the Maple Leafs this season than Ilya Samsonov.
Come on.
You going to deny that? You're denying it.
Yeah, like it's not. I don't want to.
You got to be honest. Say whatever you want to say.
It's been one. Like he had one start and he played really well.
Played well in New York too. I thought against the Rangers.
Okay.
I thought he played pretty well.
He did. You're right. 2 starts.
Yep.
Let's
I
slow
hear
the
you.
roll a little bit. I guess what gives me more pause is I don't know what's going to happen with Samsonov because we've seen this before where once a guy kind of loses it, it's tough to get it back, especially here. And I've been around obviously a lot day to day. He's feeling it. Like and we've seen this before this season. We saw this with Jack Campbell in multiple stops. It's hard to get it back. So
that's
that would be
my
concern.
That is the concern.
But I still would think he'll end up with a lot more starts.
Okay.
Way more.
All right.
Don't
Andy?
do it. Don't do it.
Well, the last time I played this game, everyone went opposite what I went.
Okay.
So I feel like maybe
go against me.
I'm just going to confirm it. That's what I'm going to do. And it's only, I maybe would have denied it, but also based on what MJ said. Like the fact that you kind of get an understanding of what the coaches are thinking with going with Martin Jones, right? Like if you're going to
That's a no-brainer decision. They probably didn't spend 5 seconds on that. He just had a shutout. The other guy's not playing well.
But I also
automatic.
feel like, but here's the thing. I do believe that the ball is in Martin Jones's court. Like if he continues to play well, I don't think they're going to stray from him.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
right.
really up to him if he continues to play well. And then to your point, if he's playing well, Joseph Wall comes back, got to give him time maybe to get back in the groove. I don't know. Like I just feel like Martin Jones could be either the guy or at least an option, the backup for a while.
A guy.
Ideally, Joseph Wall is the guy, but the guy was supposed to be Ilya Samsonov.
It was, yeah.
And he has played himself out of that. Statistically, he has not played well. I'm even more concerned about his demeanor.
Yes.
Like, that's a poison pill in a dressing room. You put a guy with a lip on that's walking around, that's constant. Like, after the Columbus game, they didn't let him talk.
Yeah.
Which, that's PR. That's why they exist. I'm not surprised, but that was pure protection. Like, that was purely, we don't need this guy going out there and basically saying, I stink, I should have been pulled.
And that's happened. Like,
That's what
I was
they were
there
worried about.
I don't remember what city it was where he kind of unraveled his scrums.
See, and that's what I actually would have loved to have asked MJ, because I know you asked him about what it's like to play in front of a goalie, like even Martin Jones coming on in. What's it like for the Leafs the last couple years, because Jack Campbell was the same way. It's almost like, and I know your teammates, you're going to stick together, you're going to, try to bump each other's egos. That also has to be exhausting for your teammates to also feel like they've got to constantly kind of boost you up a little bit, right?
Eeyore. There's a reference. I guarantee he doesn't know that.
Is.
No chance he knows.
Who are those two guys in the Muppets who walk?
Again, Stadler and
that's
Waldorf
who I feel like
whatever.
I'm with right now. You two.
We're just chirping you?
No, like you just don't know anything about anything that's going on. You think all music is bad.
Stadler and Waldorf.
We're old now.
You two.
Yeah, that's what you're suggesting.
That's how you're acting.
Andy and I are just two old, grumpy men that goof on
I'm older than both
young
of you.
people.
Anyway.
That's fine. Yeah. What's wrong with that?
Stadler, Waldorf.
Stadler and Waldorf. That's
Yes,
it. Stadler and Waldorf.
I guess what I'm trying to say is I have a right to be grumpy. And it's true. The older you get, you are just unapologetic.
Oh, yeah.
About
I can't
being a
wait.
jerk.
I'm about 15 years away
oh,
from being insufferable around people.
The old people who ram into my hip with those grocery carts,
Get out of the
they
way.
don't care.
Yeah, it's your fault. Shouldn't have been standing
I
there.
can't wait to reach that level in my life.
I'm going to deny this, though. We're still on this, if you can believe it. I'm going to deny it. I still think
everyone's against Andy again.
It is. I mean, Samsonov, I don't know if he's got more talent than Jones. I think he does.
Of course he does.
Well, Jones has been in the league a long time, Jonas. Like
at this day and time.
Exactly, because of his age
So why don't
and all
you just
that.
confirm it then?
Because I think Samsonov is going to get going because of the team he plays for. They're going to allow him to gain some confidence at some point. It would be different if this team was really struggling and needed goaltending. Right now, it's just helpful if they get it. And I think that is more conducive to Samsonov eventually snapping out of it. He's been in the league for a while. He does have the ability to do it. We saw it last year. And also his cap makes it more difficult to manage. So I think Ty would probably actually go to him because I don't think you can just trade him. Like if it gets to a point where they need to move off him, who's going to take him? Because that means the league's saying this guy clearly has played himself out of it. Right, but then that's the equivalent of Jones, I guess. Plus a little bit more. They'd actually get a little bit more relief because they get about $1.2 million. Anyway, that's down the road. I'm not at that point yet. I'm going to deny this. All right. Aaron Rodgers was on the Pat McAfee show earlier today and was asked because Adam Schefter had reported, among others, over the weekend that it sounded as if he had been cleared to play and was aiming towards playing, like this week for the Jets. And he was asked that. You guys want to hear his response?
Sure.
It was unrealistic to think that I would be 100% to be medically cleared at any point during the regular season. I do feel like, in the next 3 to 4 weeks, it would be very possible to get to 100%, but obviously not there. And so the conversation was away from 100% medical clearance to a willingness to play, and that's never been a problem for me.
So, with that said, he's not going to go, but
That was a long way.
it was a long way of answering that. But hypothetically, if he were 100% healthy and medically cleared, confirm or deny, Aaron Rodgers should absolutely play this season.
Confirm or deny Pat McAfee will ever sit down.
I think
loves
you
to
should
stand
do
up.
a show that way.
Yes.
A full stand-up?
Just
Yeah.
stand.
I do have the suit pants on right now.
I
It
do
is a
feel like
remarkable
it's a lot
looking
more
suit.
Comfortable.
See, you can pull it off because you're a little bit shorter. I'm too
Oh.
tall. I don't. It's just the truth,
Hey.
Andy.
Oh.
It's just
One day
a
you
fact.
should
It's
just-
not disparaging. Just a dead straight fact. I'm like 6'2". I don't think I could pull that off. Like I'd need a microphone that would be a lot taller.
Yeah, but it is actually
concerning.
good for the lower back. So sorry,
is good.
what was the confirm or deny?
If
Okay.
Rodgers were healthy, medically cleared, he should play this year, even though the Jets are out of it and it's a disaster.
He should.
Confirm or deny, he should.
I would I would say there's two minds of that. I would probably
Play the Fergie. I cannot confirm or deny.
I can either confirm or deny
It's
that.
one or the other.
well,
Andy.
because there's
no
there's
two
the part of
sides.
me that's like, you're the big face, you're the big name, the big money. I don't care. You get out there, you play because
Right.
people will still want to watch you. Then there's the other part of me that's like, well, no, there's no point of it. They're out. Let's start next season fresh, really give a go. So deny. Why risk having him go in there and hurt himself? So if I'm thinking from a franchise perspective, I'm going to deny it.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. Deny.
Deny.
The season's over. You know who he is. You're invested in him. You're praying he will return next season at 100%. Because it's not only about the Achilles, possibly. being re-aggravated.
Just
Maybe he does
turned
something
40.
else.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But what if he gets popped? What if he, blows his shoulder?
Why are you
Yeah.
obsessed with age?
Because you have to do it's relative. He's old for the NFL. It's like
And you wonder why I'm
it's
grumpy.
from Knocked
Such
Up.
an
It's like you're not
ageist.
too old for the world. You're just too old for this club. It's like he's too old well, he's kind of getting too old.
He's 40.
40. He just turned 40.
Right, I understand that.
That's it. Life is over.
No, he's just old for the NFL.
But he should not be playing. He
No,
should not
they're
play.
out of the
They're out of it.
playoffs.
They stink. It's done. Don't
It's a serious
risk anything
injury.
else.
Like that's not
That's another
normal
thing.
to come back.
That
and
ruins
play.
a lot of people. That actually ends people's careers.
Right. He wanted desperately to prove that he was medically different.
Well, this is a
Bionic,
nice
yeah.
way of PR spin. Well, I could have.
I could have, and I want to, but
But it's not a
what
good
are you gonna do?
idea. It's just
Exactly.
like if they were still in it, I bet he would try. Don't you think?
Even that, I think, would be silly.
it would be, but
He might. Like if
Loves-
and it says something about the Jets and how bad they are. That now he's been out all season. To be fair to them, like he played 4 snaps. But look at what the Browns are doing without their starting quarterback.
Joey Flacco.
Look what the Bengals are doing without their starting quarterback.
Wow.
Winning ball games.
And it's worse because Zach Wilson, what was he, a top 5 pick?
Yeah, he's second overall.
Yeah, that's
Like
tough.
like if your whole program collapses because of one guy,
Yeah, it's bad.
you didn't have a program to begin with. Yeah. That's very, very obvious at this point. All right, final one. We'll get to some more later this afternoon. Confirm and deny the Kyle Dubas Maple Leaf storyline will now fade away after the Pens played in Toronto. Now it fades into Lou Lamoriello territory. Confirm and deny.
Confirm, because I kind of feel that way already. I mean, I think I would just say confirm. Like, what do you mean? Like, people are still pining over him being
Yeah,
the
like he's
GM
just
with
a constant part of the conversation. Him versus tree living. What would Dubas do? What?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people kind of, even though they appreciated what Dubas would always do at trade deadline, even though a lot of people would say he did everything he could, made moves, signed players, and then it was just up to the players in the playoffs. It never worked out. I think a lot of people were also kind of ready for change and moving on because we're not seeing it on the ice. They've tied themselves up in those contracts. We don't need to relive that. Change has to, in some ways, happen, and
Some of
other.
those contracts kind of worked out okay, didn't they?
Sure.
Which ones?
I'm pretty sure the Nylander contract worked out
The
great.
Nylander lover.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. I think they should re-sign him.
Yeah, but I'm talking
I'm-
about the current contract.
Sure, the
Yeah.
one that he signed. 100%.
Did you confirm or deny?
It fades
you
away. I
confirmed that it
confirmed
fades.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I did.
I deny.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're right. I think people do want to move on, but I think there will be inflection points. I like that. Good.
Very good word.
Where this comes up again, like trade deadline. If they don't have the trade deadline that looks great, it will come up. If they don't have a good summer, if Nylander somehow doesn't sign, becomes a free agent, goes somewhere else, it'll come up. And I'm counting on the day that Kyle Dubas one day talks about what happened.
You think that's coming?
I will. Yeah. I
You think
love
he's going to do what?
I
An
would love to
interview?
do
Or?
the interview. I don't think it will ever happen, but there might be a day, one day.
This is like a breakup, right? Where you have to hit the 1 year
No, he doesn't-
anniversary again, I guess, on everything. Maybe
He has
you're-
no interest to this point in talking about it.
No, I don't mean him. I mean, like, from
Oh,
the
for the
perspective,
fan
like you
base?
just said.
Yeah.
Let's see how trade deadline goes. Let's see how
Right.
playoffs go. It's like the 1 year you've got to cycle through everything after a breakup before you fully let go. But I'm still sticking with
That's why I would deny it as well, to continue to go against Andi here, because I just think Dubas
try,
is
Andi.
very polarizing still. You saw the reaction to him from some fans, like calling his name out, booing him on Saturday night. That didn't happen with Lou. Lou just kind of like moved off, and it was like, all right, see you, Lou. And it quickly changed. Like, it was quickly no longer a Lou Lamoriello team, where Dubas was in the news constantly. People have a real
He's so polar.
reaction to him one way or the other, and I don't think that's going to fade. Eventually it will. At some point, it always does.
People need to get over it.
But it's also the way he went out. It wasn't like a firing or a I'm quitting. It was like a kind of muddy, confusing.
But wasn't it a firing?
Well, technically they called
technically
it that
no,
in the
because
end.
he didn't. He needed his contract to be renewed,
Right.
And they gave him the boot after he
After
opened
they
up
had
his heart.
apparently offered him a deal already, which is, again, part of the confusion.
Yes.
All right, confirm and deny brought to you by Don Valley North Lexus. Get lease rates as low as 3.3% for 28 months on select 2024 RX and NX models with security deposits applied. Visit DonValleyNorthLexus.com for details. Confirm and deny after dark still to come. Bonesy and Ralphie coming up from the rink. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.
Put your head on my shoulder.
See, this, you got to know. I mean, you have to know Paul Anka. All I think of is Goodfellas when I hear this song.
Oh, man. And then you think of Tommy DeVito.
Tommy DeVito.
Danny DeVito.
That's right. See, Tommy's in some trouble apparently down a little pizza joint in Jersey where he tried to squeeze more money out of him.
Did he or the agent?
Yeah, so the allegations are that there was some pizza place in Jersey that was going to have Tommy DeVito come by, the new quarterback of the Giants, and I guess do a meet and greet, sign autographs or whatever, which happens a lot, right? And I guess they were going to give him $10,000 to show up, and then the pizza place announced that it's been called off because DeVito's agent called back, I guess, and said now it's $20,000 after he beat the Packers. So,
Goodfellas.
Yeah, exactly. Now he's trying to squeeze more out. And
slime ball move.
They've gone public.
So predictable.
Like, it's kind of greasy on both ends, the fact that you would publicize that.
But they had announced that he was coming.
Oh, see, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
So that's totally greasy.
And now they're like, actually, he's not coming. Sorry if you bought tickets.
Oh, that is 100% on the player. That's on him to step up and say, I don't care who my agent is. I know you're working for me. Yeah. I'm going to accept it, and I'm going to show up.
I'm going to come for free now.
Well, yeah.
Come on.
He doesn't have to come for free.
It's 2 hours.
He doesn't have to come for free. But because the $10,000's accepted. Like it's you've accepted that deal. And if you want, like, you got to play your cards right. I get you got to strike while the iron's hot.
Yeah, I think he won one more game or something. Didn't they win?
Well, they beat the Packers, but then they went down in New Orleans and he got crushed.
Yeah, but I think this was before.
Let's talk Sean Stellato in the next segment.
Okay.
We got to.
All right. Jimmy Ralph coming up. Joe Bowen from the Rink. Confirm and Deny continues. Best Bets coming up. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050, soon to be up on TSN 2.